Do the Russians really hate Finnish people now? I wonder what is the truth. Hey guys, this is Igor Russia. In this video, we're going to be discussing the yearly survey that the Finnish Foreign Ministry has done about the attitudes towards Finns among Russians. So this is an interesting topic, yearly annual report. I've done this before, but now it's the latest one. This is fresh out of the oven. So what's up guys, this is Igor Russia. I make videos about Russia as a foreigner traveling to the great, amazing Russia and St. Petersburg especially, and other cities as well. If you're interested in what I do, please consider subscribing. Link, well, you can click down and become a member. And also, of course, if you like this video and if it's premiering especially or not, whatever, you can always leave a super chat and support my channel. Also, there's a buy me coffee link in the description. All right, guys, here we go. This is, by the way, my videos and my walks in St. Petersburg and Russia. You can check them out on my page, YouTube channel. All right, guys, let's continue to the results. So, of course, Finland and Russian relations are very important. They always been. Not gonna get into the history. I made a lot of videos about searching and discovering the Russian influence on Finland, especially during the Grand Duchy era when Finland was part of Russia. Of course, we all know what happened during the Soviet time with the Winter War and stuff, but we're not gonna get into that. As two economies nearby, is of course, especially Russians are important for Finland, for Finnish tourism, etc., and many other ventures as well. At least has been right now. It's a very unfortunate situation where the countries basically have very little to do with each other due to the world events and due to the positions the countries taken towards each other. But nevertheless, what do you guys think? What are the results? Last year, the report said that historically, let's say a couple of years ago, or even longer than that, the Finland's reputation among Russians was outstanding. And I mean outstanding. It's like 93% were thinking positive towards Finnish people, especially in the Leningrad Oblast, St. Petersburg area. And of course, that's a huge influence because I think St. Petersburg's visa center, Finnish visa center, gave out like I think it's like 1 million visas to Russians. And that's a great opportunity for Finns. But last year it had gone down. And if you want to see the last year video, check in the description, or I think it's like going to be a little card over here that you can click on and watch the other video from last year. But I wonder what's the situation right now. And I'm gonna be giving out some explanations, the ones that to my knowledge, that I know of, and the reasons that I know of. Because me traveling to Russia and seeing everything there and seeing everything in Finland, because I live here, I can also, like, you know, make some kind of a comparison. But all right, so Russians' attitude towards Finland has declined. Is the new like a finding in this survey of 2023. Young people hold more positive attitudes, and these are the two key findings of the survey. So the background is that the embassy of Finland in Moscow has commissioned once again the survey from Levada Center, which is an independent research institute. I think they used this before as well. And the Russian Ministry of Justice has added the institute to its register of foreign agents. So, and if you want to know more about the foreign agents constitute or whatever, the law or whatever, you can also check the video from me where I talked to a Russian lawyer. What does it all mean? It's not as serious as you think it is, but still. Well, this Levada Institute is labeled a foreign agent, and that's because it's probably, for example, is receiving money from foreign countries, especially the foreign countries that are not considered to be friendly, at least anymore. So that's it all has an influence on each other. All right, altogether 1,629 adult Russians from 141 population centers in 57 Russian regions responded to the survey in July 2023, this year. The margin error is 3.4%, quite average. 8% of respondents mentioned having visited Finland at least one. Only 8%, at least one. And 1 in 3 responded expressed a wish to visit a country at some point. And this was pretty regular. A lot of people wanted to Finland because having historically a great reputation among the people is something that very often gets a lot of positive reactions, and usually people say, oh, I want to visit that, and that's, oh, you're from Finland, that's so cool. Let me adjust my Zenit scarf here. So this research institution, Levada Center, estimates that Finland's decision to join NATO and its negative coverage in the Russian media may be the greatest reasons for Russians' hardening attitudes towards Finland. Even though it's expressed this way, that the media has covered the story in a negative way, I don't know how subjective you have to be to think that, for example, Russians would consider Finland joining NATO a positive thing and media covering it in a positive way in Russia. That would be crazy. So this is just stating the obvious. While Finland's decision to restrict the granting of visas and entry to Russians has a milder impact on attitudes across Russia, the Levada Center estimates that the restrictions may have much greater impact on attitudes in the northwest Russia, close to Finland's border. For sure, most of the people getting the visas and is from this region, and it's a huge region, especially just basically the St. Petersburg is just a huge economic center, having like closer to around 7 million population. So definitely that influences, that area is most influenced, because that's the area that is historically also in the previous surveys, the area which is the mostly interested in traveling to Finland and having like shopping tours, etc., just like back in the day. So the nationwide survey received responses from Northwest Russia, but the sample for the region is not sufficient to separate the responses from the nationwide data. So this data is applicable on all Russians, that's what they're saying. This year, the Finnish Foreign Ministry did not commission a separate, more extensive survey in the Northwest Russia, like they used to, because of the closure of the Consulate General in St. Petersburg. That's pretty weird. I don't know, is it like a resource question, thing, or what? How does that have to do with probably this consulate that was closed down in St. Petersburg is something that probably would have been, would do some kind of a labor work and doing the questions in the survey. Maybe, I don't know, something like that. But anyway, that would have been interesting, because the effect would be greater on that area, probably in both ways, in more negative and in the positives. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has carried out country image surveys in Russia since 2017, like I mentioned in this intro. They are conducted at least every 2 years, and the previous survey took place last year. And this is what I told you about. Probably right now we're living in so interesting moments in Finnish-Russian relations. So that's why they did it 2 years in a row. And a good thing, I think it's very interesting. The survey asks Russians about their perceptions of Finland and about their views on the relations between Finland and Russia. This year's survey is the 5th of its kind, and it was conducted in July. Finland's embassy in Moscow commissioned the survey from the Levada Center. A total of 1,629 adults across Russia responded to the survey. So let's get to the results right now. Cut the BS, right? The survey shows that 37% of Russians are positively disposed to Finland. 37% think positively about Finland, compared to, even though that seemed a lot maybe for somebody, but compared to the 51% in 2022 and 68% in 2021. And in the youngest group of respondents, 18 to 24 years old, 57% still reported having a positive attitude towards Finland, and only 27% of Russians aged over 55 years feel positive about Finland. So comparing the two, younger people think more positively about Finland Still lower levels than in history, but more positively than the older over 55 years old. As many as 28% of all respondents have a negative attitude towards Finland, compared to the 22% in 2022. A lot of twos there. And 6%, only 6% in 2021. So that has increased a lot. The high share of respondents, 35%, who are unable to give their opinions is partly due to the geographic scope of the survey. Personal experience of Finland gets rarer and the further away from the border you live. Exactly. Basically, St. Petersburg, Leningrad Oblast, sure, the northern Leningrad Oblast. Is it northern Leningrad Oblast? It's probably the other one. But anyway, I don't know what oblast is it, but Petrozavodsk, Murmansk area, the northern, they're interesting. The city is nearby the Finnish border and St. Petersburg, of course. These are the main points. And on some level also Moscow, because you could travel easily to St. Petersburg, from St. Petersburg to Finland. And basically maybe Moscow is like some kind of a the edge, and then it gets very, very rare, the interest towards Finland. The responses from Moscow can be extracted from the survey data in Moscow, like I mentioned conveniently. 48% hold positive attitudes towards Finland and 40% hold negative attitudes, and 12% are unable to give their opinion. They probably don't know where is Finland. The relations between Finland and Russia are perceived as cold. NATO is seen as threat. So yes, and this shouldn't surprise anything, even though in the Finnish media they talk about this as some kind of, there's no need to worry, you know, come on guys. Not gonna get into that, but at least you should understand that it should be perceived as a threat, the same way as Russians is perceived as a threat on the other side, because it involves movement of your forces. The relations between Finland and Russia are perceived as cold, tense, or even hostile by 61% of the respondents. And compared to that, 51% thought this way in 2022. Finland's membership in NATO, which is fresh membership, is considered to be a relatively serious threat to Russia by 36% of respondents, while 32% considered only a minor threat, and 21% as no threat at all. 40% of all respondents deemed that Finland's accession to NATO has a negative impact on the perception of Finland, while 55% felt it had no effect. I'm a little bit amazed that 55% doesn't have any effect at all, but 40% still, that's a pretty big number. That the reason is the NATO. A lot of Russians feel I've talked to some random local people on my videos, if we touch on the subject that I'm from Finland, and usually they have they have nice things to say about Finns, but then this NATO thing is always been some kind of they talk about it as a traitorship, you know, that Finland, oh, why did they join that, you know. There's no understanding of Finnish people, same way as Finnish people don't understand Russians. So maybe I could somehow work in this field and make you guys understand better each other, because I understand both and I agree only with one. All right, when the respondents were asked what in their opinion would further weaken the relations between Finland and Russia, 54% mentioned possible NATO bases in Finland. By the way, the bases that were not supposed to be in Finland when Finland was joining NATO. That's so funny how, you know, I knew this was gonna happen, by the way. This is how politics work. You agree on something, saying you won't agree to anything else, and it gets just further. The main point is just to do the first point, and basically politicians have to lie in a very convenient way to the people, so that they won't get angry when all of a sudden we're talking about positioning nuclear weapons and that stuff. That's so crazy shit. All right, what else do we have here? So 54% mentioned possible NATO bases in Finland would weaken the relationship even further. 15% said tighter EU sanction against Russia Notice this is July 2023, so there's more sanctions being given after that. And 10% stated long-term restrictions in border traffic. 20% were unable to name a single factor. So yeah, all of these things that have turned the relationship south, if they go further, they will also weaken the relations, or at least the regular people's opinions on the country. The Foreign Ministry's country image surveys in Russia have traditionally asked about Russian perception of winter war. I don't know why this is so important, by the way. But this is just a continuation of Finnish topics. They always want to talk about winter war in order to, you know, paint Russia even in a bad color, bad color. But anyway, so I don't know what does that matter, but let's go through this as well. 49% of respondents said they know the history of the war fairly well, or in broad outlines. 49, half of the people, which is aligned with the results of previous years. In the opinion of 38% of respondents, the war was caused by the Soviet Union's need to push the border further away from Leningrad, while 34% thought the reason was the military threat posed by Finland. 7% felt the cause was Stalin's policy of conquest. And this is on the contradictory of the Finnish history lessons. All right, let's talk about some positives, if there are any. Historically, well, in history, the previous ones were, well, I wouldn't be too much happy about the results, because in the previous ones, the most popular Finns were someone from the 90s or even like from the 40s. So, you know, Finnish brand is very, very old. And basically, if we're talking about like marketing, Finnish brand is mostly the same as for everybody else, you know, nature and that type of thing, nature and wildlife, etc., which is fine, but you know, very traditional. There's not much for Russians, except, yeah, Finnish quality is one thing as well, but there's nothing much to do here, and I see that way as a personally. That's why I want to go elsewhere. But there's nothing much to do, but the nature is beautiful, and it's been, you know, you can get to it fairly easily. It's all around, even the capital city area. 30% of Helsinki is green, so that type of stuff is great. But let's go to the positives here. Russians' overall perception of Finland and Finnishness have evolved over decades, says the report, and the changes in them occur slower. Well, sure, they occur slower because marketing does a lot of things, and if you don't change the marketing themes, they will continue in the same way. And especially if you don't have any interest in influencing Russian people, so, you know, with your brand in other way with other people, so this is how it goes. While Russians continue to associate Finland with nature, told you, and the North, 34% of respondents consider nature and the North like part of Finnish brand, and with development of well-being, 50%. A growing share of Russians, 50% as well, is associated Finland with geopolitics and NATO. This is a bad thing. This is a really bad thing. But then again, I cannot stop myself from comparing Finland with Russia as well. Finland is associated in Russia very much politically for a long time. You know, you cannot speak about Russia without mentioning the president of Russia, which is weird, you know. And you can talk about a lot of stuff. Just, you can spend your life, your whole full life talking about St. Petersburg's, you know, architecture, history, beauty and design and the Russian people. But no, you talk about politics. So this is like a big, getting closer to each other, and which is a negative thing. When asked to describe the Finnish society, 22% of respondents mentioned high standard of living, and 14% mentioned democracy, and 13% mentioned freedom. However, 16% of respondents described the Finnish society as closed, compared to the 7% in 2022. And that's a good word. Interesting. I wonder if I agree with that. I might be. As many as 31% of respondents are not able to describe the Finnish society at all. And no wonder, because all you see is beautiful nature pictures if you see anything from Finland. Russians consider nature as the most interesting aspect of Finland. 37% of respondents, followed by tourism and shopping, 17%. Notice in July, the borders were already closed for a longer time, so you know, no shopping for tourism for that period. So I don't know, has it gone down? And cultures mentioned 16%. However, only 7% of respondents mentioned tourism and holidays as the first thing that comes to mind about Finland. And this is like really weird information for me, once again, just like a year ago. Ville Haapasalo is still the most famous Finn in Russia. He was recognized by 20% of respondents. Same names continue here. Gustav Mannerheim was recognized by 13% of respondents, and the racing driver Mika Häkkinen by the 12%. So these are all 90s, and Mannerheim is from the 40s, and sure, he served in the Russian Empire. That is followed by Tove Jansson, the creator of Moomies, by 9%. Kimi Räikkönen, also F1 driver, by 8%. Jean Sibelius, 5%. Ville Valo from the rock group Him, 4%, and Urho Kekkonen by 3%, the previous Russian Finnish dictator. So the survey shows that only 2% of the Russian adults can recognize by name President Sauli Niinistö, just like a year ago, and the former Prime Minister, now former Prime Minister Sanna Marin, and only 1% current Prime Minister Petteri Orpo. No comments. Nationwide, 59% of respondents could not recognize by name a single Finn, compared to 37% in Moscow. I wonder when they will recognize Igor in Russia as the most famous Finn. All right, guys, what you guys think about these findings, this survey? Do the Russians really hate Finnish people now? I wonder what is the truth. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about these findings. Do you think it's gonna get worse before it gets hopefully better? If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel. I'm Igor in Russia. I'm a foreigner traveling to Russia, filming the Russian daily life and locations and sites. Please subscribe, become a member, and also, of course, you can support me, links in the description. See you guys again. This was Igor in Russia. Bye bye.